I'm Jessica.
I'm Ian.
I'm Ashley. And so just to give a little introduction about Foxconn, they are the world's largest electronics manufacturing company. They started in 1974 in Taiwan. They account for 50% of the global revenue from the electronics manufacturing industry and service sector. They have three main technologies that they emphasize on, and that's AI, semiconductors, and communication technology. They are known for being manufacturers for Apple as their biggest client, and as well as BlackBerry and Nintendo.
So for the review of the procurement and supply capabilities, Foxconn can produce large volumes of products in a short time. They provide products like electronics, network communication, computer products, and other components. So their method is long-term collaborative relationships with their suppliers, which allows the minimization of operational risks and ensures sustainable operations are followed.
For the product and service, the key product category for Foxconn include electronics, components such as the printed circuit board, connector, and a cable. The Foxconn produce a wide range of finished goods. Finished items include smartphone, tablet, PC, and another consumer electronics. Foxconn collaborate with leading brands like Apple, Sony, and Microsoft to manufacture the products. Foxconn also offers service to its customers, including prototype, testing them, and producing products. So for the make and buy, Foxconn prefer to develop its own item instead of buying from another to maintain strong control over the manufacturing process. Foxconn has formed a joint venture with various Chinese companies to create and market goods in China. In 2016, Foxconn acquired majority share in Sharp, a Japanese electronic company known for screen and components. So the company collaboration with the Sharp Corporation show how it's had modified to approach to manufacturing and purchasing decisions. So Foxconn use both insourcing and outsourcing in their supply chain strategy. Foxconn has enormous internal production capacity, so it can manufacture the component like the VCU cable and then connection in-house. However, the Foxconn is unable to manufacture in a component or subassembly in-house. It outsources. LCD panel, CPU, and the memory chip are examples of the component that Foxconn outsources. By outsourcing, the Foxconn can use its supplier skill and the resource, save price, and increase the flexibility in its supply chain strategy. For the supplier selection and evaluation, Foxconn has strict standards for selecting and evaluating suppliers to ensure high quality. Prospective suppliers are evaluated based on technical and quality management system, financial stability, and environmental and social responsibility. Foxconn conduct a routine inspection and test to ensure the vendor meet its quality and environmental standard. The company ideal supplier selection and evaluation procedure to reduce the risk in the supply chain, increase the product, and satisfy the customer requirement.
Okay, so for the supply process of technology, so in order for the three main stages, suppliers to run smoothly, Foxconn requires its suppliers to discard the hazardous substances that are used in their products. So those like management, storage management, and digital transformation. And moving on to the use of the three technologies, which include AI, semiconductors, and next generation communication. Foxconn is going to implement these three new technologies in order to be able to develop their V5G and 6G communication for global intercommunication to run more smoothly. And then so due to Foxconn's and Apple's mutual partnership, Foxconn is able to provide low-cost goals to develop exports and has been provided a 10 million airport expansion With that in mind, cost management provides analysis, budgeting, and cost control for Fox.
So moving on to their SWOT analysis, Foxconn is already known as a large manufacturer for all these really high-end brands. So they're doing well in those aspects, but they're not stopping with just electronics. They're always finding ways to expand into new markets, such as their expansions into AR technologies, as well as the EV markets. Another strength that they have is that they always set high standards for their suppliers. So the suppliers are always giving them quality products and are always reliable. They also are always investing into researching and developing their company. If you look at their background and their history, every single year from 1974 when they were founded, all the way till now, they have a new accomplishment that they did every single year. So they're always researching and investing their time and energy into the new technologies of the world. They do come with some weaknesses, as you saw with COVID-19 and like many other companies. They did have a lot of demand issues and shortages as well. So they were not exactly prepared with their supply base for a Black Swan event, as we saw. And they also are they're not exactly near all of their buyers. They're in Taiwan and China, and so that is kind of a weakness as they increase their lead times for getting to their buyers that are here in the US and other countries. They also have labor shortages due to all their like high COVID restrictions in Taiwan. Moving on to like opportunities, like I said, a part of one of their weaknesses is they're not super close to their buyers. So expanding into countries that are closer to their buyers, then buyers are now looking into reshoring and nearshoring. So just getting closer to their buyers so they're not losing those main brands that they manufacture for. They also should continue to devote their time and resources into the EV industry and AI industry, as we know that those are like new up and coming innovations that consumers really are interested in to this day. And then also, they should improve their employee labor conditions. They do actually have a high suicide rate for their their employees. And so just improving their benefits would be an opportunity for there. Some of the threats are the trade tensions between the US and China. Like we saw, there might be limitations of working with China, and since one of their manufacturing companies are in China, that's going to be problematic, as it's one of their bigger manufacturing facilities, so we won't be able to get all of the demand that we need from that large facility. And there is the emergence of competitors within the electronics manufacturing. They have been around since 1974, but since then there have been more competitors entering, and so they're closer to the buyers as well, so they're fighting with competitors that are eliminating that lead time. There's also threats with inflations that we saw and lockdowns as well.
So some of our key recommendations, key recommendation number one is to diversify supply base. So for decades, Foxconn has relied on mainly China for the majority of the production, with 12 gigafactories accounting for 200,000 to 300,000 workers. Although they do have manufacturing plants in other countries like Japan, Mexico, India, and here in the US, it is pretty minuscule in comparison. To put in perspective, production in China is currently responsible for about 70% of Foxconn's revenue. However, due to political tensions, like Jessica mentioned earlier, in China with strict COVID restrictions, for the last 3 years, Foxconn has fallen behind so much that Apple, being one of their biggest and main clients, has actually threatened to end the long-term relationship. So recently, Foxconn has considered diversifying even further to Vietnam and India, and in fact, just last night, they announced that they purchased 300 acres of land in Bengaluru in India for $37 million. They've invested total in over $2 billion for factories in India, and with 70% of the total production of Apple's iPhone being shown in the chart on the right there, being attributed to Foxconn, it is crucial that they take the necessary actions to build resilience in the supply chain. Key recommendation number 2, consider factors of job satisfaction. Again, like Jessica mentioned earlier, high suicide rates. Foxconn has hundreds of thousands of employees, like I said earlier, at their factories, yet they still face a labor shortage just because of the high turnover rates. And in addition, the workers recently have been protesting for higher wages and better working conditions, which kind of deviates them away from production and working in the factories, as taking time away. So it's contributed to the recent slowdown of production. Higher wages and better working conditions would help with a higher employee retention and encourage workers to be more productive at work. This leads to our third and final key recommendation, and that is to integrate various process innovations and technologies, such as automation and AI, which would lessen the need for human resources and manual labor. So Foxconn, as we mentioned, is pretty advanced in their automation and AI. They have softwares like Foxconn IAI and Foxconn NXEAE. So even though they've introduced a few automated production lines in the past, there haven't been enough to make up for the high production volumes. The Foxconn IAI analyzes data like production delivery lead times, process optimizations, etc. And the Foxconn NXEAE is an unsupervised machine learning that has actually contributed to the reduction of defects by 50%.
Great, let's give them a hand. Excellent. Well, can you go back to the slide that you showed me, that showed the picture of robots?